Greetings, this is Chief Blackrock, Horn of the Sun, and today I bring to you part 2 of my presentation, Substrate Reality. But before we begin, I want to show my gratitude to all ancestors known and unknown, to all gods known and unknown. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Substrate Reality, Part 2, Introduction. In Part 1, we established the foundation, pure potential, and the first differentiation that makes reality possible at all. In Part 2, we move into function. This is where reality stops being abstract and starts becoming operational. Here, possibility becomes movement. Movement becomes structure. Structure becomes something that can persist. We are no longer asking what could exist. We are examining how existence carries itself forward. This section covers energy as the carrier of possibility, information as organized constraint, the precise boundary where life begins. These layers are invisible, but they govern everything above them. If these substrates are misunderstood, all higher explanations collapse into metaphor. Substrate Reality. Part 2. Substrate 1. Energy. Energy is not force. It is not action. It is not output. Energy is the carrier of possibility. Where substrate 0 is what could exist, substrate 1 is what can now move. What energy actually is at this layer. At the substrate level, energy is structured movement, direction without form, capacity for change. Nothing is solid yet. Nothing is defined yet. Energy exists as fields, not objects. Fields, not particles. Particles are effects. Fields are causes. Energy at this layer creates tendencies, shapes likelihoods, establishes flow. What later appears as matter or behavior begins here as field dynamics. Energy is pre-force. Force is energy after resistance appears. At substrate 1, there is no opposition, no friction, no struggle, only flow patterns. This is why working at this layer feels effortless when done correctly. Why energy is invisible but dominant. You don't see energy directly. You see what aligns with it, what resists it, what collapses without it. Energy determines what actions are possible, what outcomes are likely, what systems can sustain themselves. Stability versus intensity. High energy does not mean chaos. Low energy does not mean calm. Stability comes from coherence, not magnitude. A small coherent field outperforms a massive unstable one. Energy is not what happens. It is what makes happening possible. Energy to information. Energy alone is motion. Information is organized motion. The transition from energy to information is the moment when flow gains structure. What changes at this boundary? Energy can move endlessly without meaning. Information appears when patterns stabilize, relationships repeat, structure persists over time. This is the first moment reality becomes legible. Information is not matter. Information has no mass, no weight, no physical substance, yet it governs everything that follows. Information is constraint. What can happen, what cannot, in what order? Pattern is the key. When energy flows the same way repeatedly, a pattern forms. That pattern is information, not because someone observes it, but because it limits possibility. Why meaning appears. Here, meaning does not exist in pure energy. Meaning arises when differences are encoded, sequences are preserved, distinctions can be referenced. Information allows reality to remember itself. Energy loses freedom, gains precision. At this handoff, infinite movement becomes bounded. Possibility narrows, direction sharpens, less freedom, more reliability. This trade-off makes complex systems possible. The structural rule. Energy powers systems. Information governs them. Power without information is noise. Information without energy is inert. Both are required, but they are not the same. Why this layer matters. Every failure above this point traces back here. Corrupt information, broken patterns, Incoherent signals fix the information and energy flows correctly again. Energy moves. Information decides how. Substrate 2, information. Information is pattern without substance. It has no mass, no weight, no physical form, yet it determines the shape of everything that follows. At this layer, reality becomes organized. What information is here? Information is stable pattern, repeatable instruction, constraint on possibility. It answers the question, in what way can energy move? Information creates predictability. Without information, everything is random. Information reduces uncertainty, enables repetition, allows systems to persist. Reality becomes reliable here. The compression principle. Information compresses reality. Instead of infinite possibilities, only certain paths remain viable. This compression makes memory possible, structure possible, life possible. Failure at this layer. When information degrades, systems become chaotic. Energy is wasted. Control disappears. Symptoms appear later in biology, psychology, and society. But the fault lives here. Why this layer is invisible? You never see information directly. You see its expression, its enforcement, its consequences, yet it is the true governor of form. Information is the rule, reality follows, even when no one is watching. Information to biology. Biology begins when information becomes self-maintaining. This is the transition from pattern that exists to pattern that preserves itself. Life is not created by matter. Life emerges when information learns how to stay intact. What changes at this boundary? Information alone can exist statically. Biology requires feedback repair, continuity. At this point, information is no longer passive. It acts to preserve its pattern. Life is a process, not a thing. Biology is not an object. It is ongoing regulation, constant correction, active resistance to entropy. A living system is information that refuses to dissolve. Why energy becomes internalized? In biology, energy is no longer external. Living systems take in energy, store it, redirect it, use it to protect structure. This is the birth of metabolism, the threshold of sensitivity. Biology introduces sensation. For the first time, a system detects change, responds to difference, adjusts behavior. Not consciously, but functionally, the cost of life. Life trades freedom for persistence. Where information was abstract, biology is constrained by survival. Patterns that cannot sustain themselves disappear. Once information becomes biological, collapse is catastrophic, errors propagate, damage accumulates. Higher layers now depend on maintenance, not just structure. Life begins when information learns how to protect itself. What we've covered here sits beneath thought, identity, society, culture. Yet it determines all of them. Energy does not act with intention. Information does not care about meaning. Biology does not seek purpose. They seek continuity. Part 2 reveals a critical truth. Reality does not begin with mind. It begins with structure that can sustain itself. Life is not magic. It is information that learned how to remain coherent under pressure. From here forward, everything becomes interpretive, perception, identity, belief, systems. But none of those exist without what we've just stabilized. Part 2 is complete. Next, we move into Substrate 3, biology, where sensation, perception, and limitation enter the structure, and reality becomes personal.